folks, last night was the third episode of the X Factor on Fox with auditions in Chicago and Seattle. Seattle? Wait a minute, didn't we see the Seattle auditions last week? Does Simon Cowell think we have amnesia or something? I distinctly remember the second half of Wednesday night's show last week with Paula Abdul wearing what appeared to be Tina Turner's costume from the Mad Max movies, and she was wearing that when she went to the bathroom to toss her cookies after that man exposed himself, and she was wearing the same thing last night in the second round of Seattle auditions. I'm thinking they probably threw this show together at the last minute after so much negative criticism from last week's show, which I really enjoyed, so I don't know why you would change it just because you get some criticism, because the show's always going to get criticism from somebody, but they still put together a pretty good show, even though the editing felt a little bit sloppy to me. Didn't it seem like it was just thrown together, like everything was all shuffled up? Because at one part you would have Paula Abdul in the Mad Max costume, and then the judges are going to go take a break, but while they're on break, she's wearing a red dress. And then when they come back from break, she's wearing a zebra dress. And then for the next performance, she's back in the red dress, and by the end of the show, she was back in the Mad Max costume. So it was all kind of shuffled up together, but it was still a pretty good show. For the first half of the show, Cheryl Cole was back. I think I have to agree with the majority. She's a more interesting judge than Nicole Scherzinger. I think a lot of people, you know, if you look at the polls online, a lot of people think that she's a better judge, but that could have something to do with the fact that she was unceremoniously fired, and so people are going to side with her a lot of the times. I think if Nicole Scherzinger had been fired for Cheryl Cole, you'd probably have a lot of people having sympathy for Nicole. But I think by the end of the show, though, Nicole kind of rendered herself useless for me. And I think she was originally supposed to be the co-host. She was going to be the Dunkelman of the show. And I think Steve Jones might need a Dunkelman because he's really not that interesting by himself. If you showed most people in America this picture of him, they would probably believe that he's one of the Ice Road Truckers and not the host of a singing competition. So, yeah, I think maybe he needs Nicole Scherzinger to help him out. And maybe they'll switch it up before the shows go live. Who knows? But anyway, more about Nicole Scherzinger later. The first audition of the night was Brock and Makenna. Makenna looks like that lady from Saturday Night Live, doesn't she? What is her name? The one that used to play Hillary Clinton. I think Makenna looks just like her. Anyway, these two have been singing together for 4 years, and Makenna says that it was their music that brought them together. Yeah, for you, maybe. I think he had his sights set a little bit something different, if you know what I mean. Poor Brock is in love with his singing partner, and she doesn't even know it. Well, I mean, she obviously knows it now if she watched the show last night, but I would hate to be the one to break this to him. But she knows. Women are not that stupid, Brock, not even the blonde ones. Y'all have been singing together for 4 years. Oh yeah, she knows. The only reason that she hasn't said anything is because she doesn't feel the same way about you. Did you notice how every time somebody asked her if they were boyfriend and girlfriend, she was always the one that was quick to point out that they're just good friends? Yeah, she's just not that into him. Anyway, they sang Colder Weather, and they sounded pretty good together. I thought he was a little better than she was. She seemed to be singing a little bit too low, and her voice seemed to be on the verge of falling apart at a few points for me, but she held it together. The judges loved him, so it was 4 yeses for them. But of course, at this point again, I noticed some of the sloppy editing. While they were getting those yeses from the judges, Cheryl said yes, then Paula said yes, at which point Makenna and Brock hugged up together, and Makenna said, "We love you," and then Simon said yes, and then Reid said yes, at which point they showed the same clip of Brock and Makenna hugging up and with her saying, "We love you." Did they really think we wouldn't notice that? Next was 35-year-old Kim Tereck. She said that she's taken 10 years of voice lessons. 10 years? Doesn't that seem a little bit of excessive? I would think that you'd probably learn everything you need to know in the first year or two. Help people get through medical school quicker than that. Anyway, she sang Firework by Katy Perry, and I hope she didn't spend a lot of money on those voice lessons because they obviously didn't work. She should demand a refund. Maybe then she could, buy the rest of that outfit. Next was 21-year-old model Tim Quinn. Simon asked if he had auditioned before. Hello, Simon, this is the first season. Where do you think he was going to audition before? In the UK? Maybe he would have auditioned in the UK, but probably not since he doesn't live there. Anywho, Tim sang Kiss from a Rose, more like a thorn. Maybe he got the thorn in his lips while he was singing. Lucky for Tim, he already has a job that doesn't require any talent. He's a model. Isn't Steve Jones a model too? Next was 45-year-old Robin Royal. Simon told her that she looked good. And, well, she didn't look 45, but what was she wearing? Dress your age, Grandma. I thought she looked like a prostitute, and unfortunately, with a voice like that, there was no happy ending for her. Next was 45-year-old shuttle bus driver Charlesia Heard. She doesn't want to be a singer, she wants to be a judge. Obviously a little bit late for that, but then again, she probably would have made a more interesting replacement for Cheryl Cole than old Nicole, what's-her-face. Next was 16-year-old Skyelor Anderson, the ever-so-rare black country singer. There really is only one famous black man in country music right now. You know, old Hootie without his blowfish. So I definitely think there's room for more, and I was expecting this kid to be great. You know, he's got the country look going on. His mom works on motorcycles, and he likes to sit by bonfires and and go fishing, so he really lives his life like a country song. Well, minus, you know, the whiskey and tractors, but of course he's only 16, so there'll be plenty of time for that later on. He wants the $5 million so he can buy his mom a house and buy himself a piece of land. Isn't that the typical country boy answer? They always want a truck and a piece of land. Never a house or anything like that. Anyway, I was really expecting Skyelor to be great. He sang "Must Be Doing Something Right," and it started out okay, but somebody must have been doing something wrong because the music cut out in the middle of the song. But Skyelor kept singing without it, and I kind of wish he hadn't. You know, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't all that great either. I think that he has potential, but the voice just isn't all that great right now. The judges were more impressed by the fact that he kept on singing when the music stopped than they were by the voices, I think. So he got 4 yeses, but I don't expect to see him stick around very long. Next was 31-year-old J. Mark Inman. That sounds like the name of an assassin, doesn't it? Like Lee Harvey Oswald, or, you know, one of those people that always have a middle name. Anyway, J. Mark said that both sides of his brain are always working. I guess one side is a superstar and the other side is a nerd. It seems to me that the nerd is the more predominant side. He doesn't want to be a cookie-cutter pop star, but I sense that that's just because he knows he's not capable of it. Very strange young man. Simon asked him if he had ever dated Paula, and he said no, but maybe someday he will. I doubt that, buddy. We learned from last week's show that Paula gets physically ill when she catches the glimpse of the male anatomy, so you probably don't stand much of a chance. Anyway, J. Mark sang "Creep," and I thought his moves were mildly entertaining, but the voice was just garbage. But of course, the judges seemed to enjoy oddballs over actual talent, so it was an easy yes for the weirdo. Next, we had a batch of Paula-inspired wackadoodles. And a super quick snippet of 15-year-old Arin Reid singing "Ain't No Sunshine," and it was pretty good from the millisecond that we heard of it. Next was 30-year-old Josh Krajcik, who slings burritos for a living. And so at the end of a long day's work, he says that he oftentimes smells like onions and burritos, and something tells me that that's what he smelled like on the stage. He looked filthy. His hair was all gross and greasy, and he looked like he rode in the back of a dump truck on the way to his audition. A dump truck, by the way, driven by his super excited mom. She pointed out that she's the one that drove the 7.5 hours. I got the sense that maybe that's because he had been drinking, and she was like the designated driver. I thought it was quite obvious that they were trying to set this up to be a moment, so I honestly was not surprised when he sang it last and didn't destroy it. I thought it was pretty good, but, you know, I wasn't in tears like his mom, and I sure wasn't wetting myself like the judges were. They just loved him. They acted like it's the best thing that they've ever heard, and I thought it was just okay. I have to agree with L.A. Reid, though. I think he did intentionally come on stage looking like a garbage pail kid in an attempt to have a Susan Boyle moment. Because, you know, I don't think people would have been as impressed if he had come on stage looking freshly showered. Remember when Susan Boyle did that? She had her makeover and stuff. She colored her hair and put on makeup, and people were like, "Oh no, the magic is gone." They wanted her to remain frumpy. Anyway, as this guy was leaving the audition with his mother, he said, "Where's the bar?" Good thing he hasn't had his designated driver with him. So next, so long to Cheryl Cole, and hello to Seattle again. First up is mom and daughter duo Darwin and Sherry as the Good Girls. Hey Simon, here's a clever idea. Maybe for your new show, try showing us something that we didn't see on your old show. I remember these ladies from the Idol auditions back several years ago. They had written a novel about Simon. These two odd ladies want to exceed Lady Gaga. Looks to me like they ate Lady Gaga, and then rolled around in their closet and just wore whatever stuck onto them. They sang "What's Going On," and it's exactly what I expected it to be. You know, Darwin had sang "Don't Ya" by the Pussycat Dolls when she auditioned for Idol a few years ago, and I wish she would have done that on the X Factor for Nicole. And to see what Nicole had thought about this performance. Nicole thought that this song felt lifeless, and I have to agree. I think these two ladies would be perfect playing soul collectors in one of those small-town horror movies. Next was 14-year-old Drew Ryniewicz, who was an obsessed Justin Bieber fan. She seemed more concerned with impressing L.A. Reid than she was with actually doing well, since she said that L.A. Reid is a big part of Justin Bieber. The biggest part. That's almost sounded obscene, didn't it? You could have hurt a young man's ego by saying something like that, young lady. Besides L.A. Reid, you know, he's supposed to be bigger if you believe the stereotype. Anyway, she sang "Baby" by Justin Bieber, but she changed it to make it her own. Oh, what a novel idea. And I thought it was okay, you know. I think the new version of the song made it more impressive than the singing. Actually, I thought her voice was a little bit weak, but it was still pretty good. But the judges loved it. They all agreed that they liked her version way better than Justin Bieber's. And, you know, I haven't seen the judges that excited over a contestant since that girl changed up "Stop in the Name of Love" last week. Like I said, I think it's more that she changed up the song to make it her own that made it seem more impressive. On the way out, though, with her family, she said that she had never really stopped to think about it, but L.A. Reid could have hammered her. No, sweetheart. At least not for a few more years, anyway. Next was a super quick clip from a girl group, Jada. What is that, like Jada Pinkett Smith? The judges dismissed it before they ever even really got started. I didn't think they sounded that bad, though. Next was 21-year-old Peet Monzingo. P-double-E-T, like peat moss or something, I don't know. Peet is the only tall person in a family of dwarves. Now, when he was younger, he wanted to be a dwarf too, and now at 21, he wants to be a teen heartthrob. So it sounds like his dreams are always a little bit on the impossible side. Anyway, Peet said that he's 6'1" and his mom is 4 foot. Don't ask me how it happened, says Peet. Peet, you weren't 6'1" when she birthed you. Otherwise, you would have burst out of her. Peet's dad is apparently the second tallest dwarf in the world, but how do they really know? Have they gone, like, around measuring little people? I doubt it. I thought his family was adorable, though. He sang Billionaire by Bruno Mars, but he changed it to Famous because he'd rather be famous than rich. But don't the two things go together? Like, if you're really famous, you're gonna be rich too, aren't you? So, I thought it was kind of stupid. He should have left the song the way it was because his version really did not make any sense. And, you know, he didn't sing it that well either. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, but it wasn't good enough to sell records or make him famous. The judges said no, but they think he may be famous someday anyway. No, he won't. Why do they tell him that? I don't understand why he would, like, give somebody those expectations for themselves that they're probably not going to be able to live up to. Next was Boy Band For Sure, singing End of the Road by Boyz II Men, written by L.A. Reid. For Sure was their answer to damn near every question that was asked of them. For sure, and they're going to win 18 Grammys according to them. Somehow, after hearing them sing, I don't think that's going to happen. The judges were crazy about them, crazy being the key word. I thought they were horrible. I thought they sounded terrible. I was actually surprised at how bad they sounded because I was expecting them to sound really good. And I'm not sure what the judges had in those Pepsi cups, but I'm going to need some of whatever it is they had if these guys stick around for too long. L.A. Reid even gave them a standing ovation, and copycat Scherzinger followed suit. I thought it was just terrible. L.A. said it was incredible. Nicole said, "Thank you for making it a concert for us." Paula said your harmonies were impeccable. Simon said that Americans would be proud to have them representing America all over the world. Not this American. Next was 53-year-old wedding singer Elaine Gibbs singing You've Got a Friend. And I thought she sounded fantastic, but I felt like I was at church. Now, you know, not exactly something you're going to hear on the radio unless you switch over to the gospel station. Another standing O from L.A. Reid and copycat Scherzinger. It was 4 enthusiastic yeses for her. Next was 17-year-old Francesca Duncan singing Hero. Just a small clip of it, so it was pretty good. She got 4 yeses. Next, 42-year-old wedding DJ Tiger Budbill. We basically heard just one big, long note from him, and he held it together, so it wasn't terrible. But I'm with L.A. Reid. I just really was not that impressed. The girls said yes, though, and Simon followed suit. Next was 21-year-old waiter Phillip Lomax. He sang Fly Me to the Moon, and the judges loved his confidence and charisma. They believe that he has the X Factor. Yeah, if this were X Factor 1946. If we're looking for the next big recording artist for elevator music, he would be a shoo-in. I think this is the kind of guy that if he were to make it really far into live shows and like doesn't go home the first week of the live shows, people would hate him for it. Next, we saw clips of girls that Simon declared DOA because he believes that Paula and Nicole have a problem with putting pretty ladies through to the next round. But you know, Simon, doesn't he sometimes put girls through just because they're pretty? So I don't think they were really doing that, though. We did get to hear Nicole sing a bit of I Will Always Love You, and it was impressive, but I thought it was a little show-offy, and it's kind of in poor taste for a judge to try to upstage the auditioner. And the last audition of the night was 19-year-old Tiah Tolliver. You know who she kind of reminded me of in the looks department? Naima Adedapo from season 10 of Idol. Maybe it was the narrow teeth. She had very small, narrow teeth. I don't know. Anyway, Simon declared her DOA, and I thought he was just being bitchy. She sang Impossible, and she sang it a cappella, and I thought it was just okay. You know, I didn't think it was anything too impressive. I agree with L.A. Reid on this one, as I often do. It just doesn't make any sense that you would sing a cappella when you don't have to. This ain't American Idol, sweetheart. I honestly think that if Simon had not made a big deal about this girl, L.A. would have given her a no too, but Simon said that he had a feeling about her. Like what? The girl said no, and then Simon acted like a brat. He tossed his pencil down and threw a tantrum. L.A. Reid told Tiah to sing another song, and I didn't think it was any more impressive than the first time around. Paula stuck with her no vote, and Nicole Scherzinger caved in. Now, I felt happy for Tiah. You know, she seemed like a really sweet young lady, but it kind of lost any hope that I had for Nicole Scherzinger. Because I was on the fence with her up until this point. But what's the point in even having her on if her opinion can be swayed by Simon Cowell throwing a tantrum? You know, there may as well only be 3 judges. Or better yet, bring back Cheryl Cole. Anyway, I'll see you folks tomorrow.